सन्मति दे भगवान।
ईश्वर अल्लाह तेरे नाम सबको सन्मति दे भगवान।
रघुपति राघव राजा राम पतित पावन सीताराम।
रघुपति राघव राजा राम पतित पावन सीताराम। रघुपति राघव राजा राम पतित पावन सीताराम। रघुपति राघव राजा राम पतित पावन सीताराम।
रघुपति राघव राजा राम पतित पावन सीताराम।
रघुपति राघव राजा राम पतित पावन सीताराम।
सीताराम सीताराम भज प्यारे तू सीताराम।
सीताराम सीताराम भज प्यारे तू सीताराम।
ईश्वर अल्लाह तेरे नाम सबको सन्मति दे भगवान।
ईश्वर अल्लाह तेरे नाम सबको सन्मति दे भगवान।
रघुपति राघव राजा राम पतित पावन सीताराम।
रघुपति राघव राजा राम पतित पावन सीताराम।
सीताराम सीताराम भज प्यारे तू सीताराम।
सीताराम सीताराम भज प्यारे तू सीताराम।
ईश्वर अल्लाह तेरे नाम सबको सन्मति दे भगवान।
ईश्वर अल्लाह तेरे नाम सबको सन्मति दे भगवान।
रघुपति राघव राजा राम पतित पावन सीताराम।
रघुपति राघव राजा राम पतित पावन सीताराम।
सीताराम सीताराम भज प्यारे तू सीताराम।
सीताराम सीताराम भज प्यारे तू सीताराम।
ईश्वर अल्लाह तेरे नाम सबको सन्मति दे भगवान।
ईश्वर अल्लाह तेरे नाम सबको सन्मति दे भगवान।
रघुपति राघव राजा राम पतित पावन सीताराम।
रघुपति राघव राजा राम पतित पावन सीताराम। रघुपति राघव राजा राम पतित पावन सीताराम। रघुपति राघव राजा राम
solidarity with the nature as well, because climate change is another big issue that we see in the world today. So with that in mind, we have organized this symposium today. I would like to just introduce you to our trustee, Dr. Nhlanhla Ngidi, who is one of our trustees of the Phoenix Settlement Trust, and he is going to be the facilitator for this event today. So over to you, Comrade Nhlanhla.
Thank you, Comrade Ila. Just a slight correction, it's Mr. Ngidi, not Dr. Ngidi.
Oh, sorry.
I know I may look like a doctor, but but
Yes.
I'm not. Let me start by welcoming everybody to this symposium and thank Comrade Ila for sketching the background of the symposium, which is being held under the theme of the power of interfaith solidarity. Just a few reminders that there will be a number of speakers who will be speaking, and we would like our speakers to keep to time allocated, and for each speaker there is 10 minutes that has been allocated. Please do not be offended if when I see that you are going over your time, that I then interject and ask you to wind up. I hope everybody can hear me. Hello?
Yes, we can.
Oh,
We can
okay.
hear you.
Yes, it's
So
fine.
without any further waste of time, I think we will then start with our program, and I would then invite Bishop Foster to do the universal prayer. Over to you, Bishop.
Thank you so much, and thank you for this honor to be a part of this symposium today. I want to start with just a brief reflection on three concepts that we find in isiZulu in this part of the world. And the three concepts are Ubuntu, Ubunye, and Amandla. In Ubuntu, we understand that we are because of others. And so we need to always live in peace and harmony with others. And Ubunye speaks to our oneness or sumunye. And we need to live as one in order to be tolerant of each other. And then Amandla is the life-giving source of our power in order to uplift those, especially who are on the margins. And so, given those three concepts that, in a sense, are rich, each one of them on their own, that this speaks to the universality of our humanity. And so, having said that, I would like to share a universal prayer, which comes from Hawaii, the Hawaii Conference of Religions for Peace. And Dr. John Heidel had written this. And so let us pray together.
Bishop, can I interrupt you for a minute?
No
there
problem.
is a request that you should put on your video, please, because people want to see you.
My video is on.
But we don't see you on the screen.
Oh,
Okay.
I can see myself.
Oh, okay.
The screen
All
is
right, I'll
hazy.
check. Yes,
It seems that there's something blocking the camera because there's a haziness on the screen.
Oh,
We
I'm
can
not sure
actually
what
see
it is.
you, Bishop. We can see you.
You can see me okay? Oh, okay. Is it better that can people see me now?
No, we cannot see you.
No, I think
It's like
there are a few who can see you, and there are
Yes.
those who can't. I'm
Oh,
one
okay.
of those who can't.
those
But
who
I
have-
think to save time, let us, whilst
Yes,
it is
Visible.
it is a good thing to see the speaker, but to save time, I would like that we proceed.
proceed. Okay.
Okay, I will proceed then with the Interfaith Universal Prayer for Peace, which I said comes from the Hawaii Conference of Religions for Peace. We pause in reflection to offer this prayer for a peaceful world. In our individual and personal ways, we call upon the Holy One, who sustains our lives and who inspires us to live with compassion and kindness and peace. We ask for daily guidance in all of our personal relationships, in our work and play, and in our community involvement, that we might model the possibilities of peace in everything we say and in everything we do. We pray for wisdom and compassion within the hearts and minds of all world leaders who have the power and the responsibility of making decisions that impact the presence of peace. We pray for courage, dedication, and integrity within the spirits of all those who work for peace around the world. We pray for all those who harbor thoughts of and feelings of hatred and violence and greed, that their hearts and minds and souls will be transformed into your likeness of compassion and kindness. We are thankful for your presence within our lives and ask for your blessing as we try to live peaceful lives and seek ways for all people to live in harmony and peace. Amen.
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 Thank you, Bishop, for that. It is a powerful prayer, and I think also, just as you were beginning to pray, your picture came onto the screen, so it attests to the power of prayer. Without any further waste of time, there will be introductory remarks by the Gandhi Development Trust. I'm not so sure whether Comrade Eli, who had already taken care of that, or there's going to be somebody who's going to do it formally.
No, unfortunately, the Phoenix Choir hasn't come on as yet, so we'll leave them for the end.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can we then move on to item number 3 of the agenda? And that is the address by the Venerable Geshe Likador, former religious translator of His Holiness and presently Director of the Library of Tibetan Works and Archives, Beyond Religion, Interfaith Harmony. That would be his address. Over to you, Mr. Likador.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you and we can see you.
Oh, that's good. So thank you for inviting me to this annual Mahatma Gandhi Symposium for 2022 on the power of interfaith solidarity for the promotion of nonviolence and peace. And I like this title, Religion is a Thing to be Lived. This memorial interfaith webinar on the day of assassination of Mahatma Gandhi is, of course, an important date to remind us of the importance of interfaith respect, work and harmony. So first of all, I would like to congratulate the organizers and also would like to pay my respect to the fellow speakers and all those who are participating in this meeting. And I have jotted down some important points to save time. And I would like to start by saying that the last days of Mahatma Gandhi were full of sadness and foreboding. Everywhere around him, he saw the collapse of the values he had cherished: Hindu-Muslim unity, peace, and brotherly love. And in fact, days before he was actually assassinated, in 1848, there was an explosion of a gun cotton. And after that, Gandhi himself said, "Now I seek my peace in disorders." This is a very powerful statement. I seek my peace in disorders. When everything is good, then there's no need to make much effort. When everything is in disorder, in turmoil, violent, then it's important that we pay special attention. And the violence around him that he had all his life opposed now seemed to engulf him. In despair, he recited the words of the Urdu poet Nazir, which said, "Short-lived is the spring in the garden of the world. Enjoy the brave spectacle while it lasts." This is also, I think, a very relevant, important topic, that nobody knows how long we are going to live, but while it lasts, it's important that we live it beautifully by contributing to the well-being of other people. And he said, if I were to die of a lingering disease, don't call me a Mahatma. And he said, if explosion takes place, as it did last week, this is actually, he said, I think in the morning of the day when he was assassinated, or if someone shot at me and I received his bullet in my bare chest without a sigh and with Ram's name on my lips, only then should you say that I was true Mahatma. And in fact, when he was shot, that is what he said, Hey Ram, 2 times. So this clearly shows how spiritual he is. And when his granddaughter, on the day when he was assassinated, right in the morning, of course, the granddaughter did not know that he will be assassinated. But anyway, she has been noticing him, that he's constantly talking about he's going to be assassinated and hinting something like that. So therefore, this morning, she asked Gandhiji what prayer she should chant on the last day. That was the question she asked on the last day. And then Gandhiji told her to recite this prayer. Whether weary or unweary, O man, do not rest. Do not cease your single-handed struggle. Go on and do not rest. This was the commitment of this man. And further, the prayer says, the world will be dark and you shall shed light on it. And you shall dispel the darkness around. O man, though life deserts you, do not rest. And in fact, he said, if I may not be alive tomorrow. So in that day, he said this 4, 5 times, clearly knowing that he is going to be, assassinated. And the interesting thing is he actually wanted to live 125 years, but passed away only when he was 78 years only. And India was barely 5 months independence. So it's a very tragic and sad situation. But we can learn from Gandhiji that whether he is, died or whether he lived, all his thought was how to contribute his peace towards this world. And one of the most important things that he introduced was Satyagraha, a new way of fighting for justice and for new moral and spiritual awakening. That is what we need. Spiritual awakening, that is what we need. Not so much about religious awakening, we need really spiritual awakening. His ability to bring change through self-suffering. That means we can bring about change in this world only when we are ready to undergo some hardship and are ready to make some sacrifice for the well-being of the majority. So it is because of this, still today, his teachings are still a part and parcel of
Camera is open.
India's way of thinking and solving the problems of communalism, poverty, and unemployment.
Okay.
So first I will speak.
Hello, how are you?
Excuse me.
No, I'm going back
Can we please? Can we please? Sorry. Can we please? Can we please mute?
Okay.
Can we please mute what is tapping the speaker?
So I thought somebody.
Please go on. Go ahead.
I thought somebody is speaking on my behalf. Okay, so I'll speak few words about interfaith harmony. It is in a way very simple. We all want happiness, and happiness comes from harmony. That's very simple, whether it's in religious practice or any societal activity. So today, the world we live, unfortunately or fortunately, is a truly global, unlike before. All are touched by technology, environmental degradation, global economics, instant communication, and so forth. And the challenges before us are much more urgent. the era of nuclear weapon, international terrorism, and so forth is calls for peaceful coexistence. There's no other way. It's really like do and die kind of question. For that, we need to know the main messages of all the world religions and not fight over philosophical correctness. We need to clearly have this understanding. The main messages of all the religious traditions are same. There may be philosophical differences. So don't harp on the philosophical differences and contradictions even, because in terms of contradiction differences, even in one person's life, there will be a lot of differences and contradictions. What you thought in the morning may contradict what you think in the evening. So it is because of these contradictory experiences that you are able to face challenges and make development. So we should see all these differences as a beauty, as a richness, not as a contradictory teaching that would harm other religious traditions. So the most important thing here is we need to understand the shared basic human nature. Without going into deep philosophical point, it's important to understand the shared basic human nature and recognize the global nature of the problem and our common responsibility. Like, for example, this pandemic that had embraced all of us did not show, this pandemic, like any aspect of nature, did not make any differences of religion, caste, creed, men, women, and so forth. We all have started suffering. We should learn from such pandemics. And unfortunately, human beings don't learn very easily. And we are not able to learn very easily because most of us are unfortunately have this narrow-mindedness. People who have this short-sightedness and narrow-mindedness are very fond of dividing, focusing on small things, and then divide this religion, this nation, that nation, this society, that nation, men, women. They will try to find anything that is dividing. For big thinkers like Mahatma Gandhi, the thought is like space, sky, where there is room for everybody, including those whose views are completely opposite to you. So I think it's really, really important not to just, keep on thinking that my way is the right way or my religion is the best religion. How can you say that your way is the best way? How can you say your religion is the best religion? And practically speaking also, we cannot, dictate everybody to go in the same line. Even the dictatorial communist countries failed to do that. Still, there are countries who are doing that, but they are not able to achieve success in that. Because human beings have different thoughts. That is, in fact, that is the richness, that everybody has capacity to think and plan and invent many different things. So we should appreciate those differences. So therefore, His Holiness the Dalai Lama said that we should all embrace religious pluralism, and we should see these differences as a garden of flowers or supermarket of religion where you can pick up the best that you need. So differences and contradictions should be seen as our richness to contribute to the towards growth. And then another very important thing is today our very survival is in stake. And here religions played a very crucial role. It played a crucial role in the past, and even today in the time of science and technology, it does play a very important role. But at the same time, we should think the religion is the servant of mankind and not master of the mankind. Unfortunately, sometimes you tend to, ignore people, exploit people to ensure that the religion is correct, that the political way of thinking is correct. But that is, I think, is wrong. All human activities are to serve, including religion, to serve mankind and not otherwise. So any human activity, including religious activity, must contribute to harmony and peace. If religion itself becomes a cause for disharmony, then it's really like medicine becoming poison. So we must very strongly discourage religious exclusivism, fundamentalism, and extremism. At all costs, we should fight and discourage it. And then the second topic on which I will speak few lines is the topic on beyond religion. When Mahatma Gandhi was asked whether he intended to found a sect, he declared with characteristic humor that his ambition was not so limited. That means if you think about one sect or one religion, that also shows the limitation. So he wanted everybody to follow his satyagraha, to fight for the truth, not for any god, not for any religion. Therefore, he worshipped no god other than the truth. So for him, worshipping God means actually worshipping the truth. So for him, truth is important, love is important. He was a totally not so much about a religious person, but he was a spiritual person like the Buddha. And spirituality for him is not a hermetically sealed house. He believed that true religion transcends denominations. And true religious practice is not found in a set of catechisms and rituals. So therefore, it is at this connection, it's important for us to think a little bit about what is known as secularism, which is beyond religion, which basically means embracing both faith and reason. Okay, because the secularists, they used to voice against religion, saying that religious people follow only faith and no reason, which may not be true. But we need to make it clear that our faith should also be based on reason, not just on blind faith. This is important because if we think only about religious practitioners and not the rest of the society, and these days, in fact, it is truth that more and more people are abandoning dogmatic religion. So it is important to follow a set of spirituality or religious practice which brings everybody together, because the challenge we face in this world touches everybody, believers, non-believers, even those who are against religion. If we look at the history of how many things developed in this world, in the beginning we had only metaphysics. That was not enough. Then physics came into being. That's how hard science came into being. And then with religious beliefs also, for many people it seemed that it is not enough. So as a reaction to religion, spirituality came into being. Then we have the separation of the state and church. So secularism is basically against dogmatism. Then we have feminism against man chauvinism. So there are a lot of development that is there. So we need to accept the fact, what line of thinking, what line of practice is really relevant or irrelevant. There is now no room for any blind faith. So I would like to more or less conclude very quickly by saying that we must first become a human being before becoming a religious person. That is the meaning of secularism. So secularism will be the basis for higher religious practices.
Could the speaker mind the time, please?
Okay. I will stop right here.
Please.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much to you, Venerable Geshe Lagdo.
Yeah.
I think you've raised quite a number of important topics, despite the fact that you had to stop your speech in midstream because of time. But I think there are quite a number of important points that we have raised, such as spiritual awakening as opposed to religious awakening. And you've also warned us against the tragedy of small-minded people and their divisive nature. And you've also pointed out at discouraging religious exclusivism. And you have also touched on one of the characteristics of Gandhi, who was as a spiritual person, who believed that worshiping God was tantamount to worshiping the truth. I think those are quite important points that you have touched upon. Thank you very much for your contribution, sir. On that note, then I would like us to move to the next speaker. We're now on item 4 of the agenda, and that's the address by Piyushi Kotecha, CEO of the Desmond and Leah Tutu Foundation. And the speaker is speaking on interfaith respect, key to peace. Over to you, speaker. is Piyushi, I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly.
Okay, she's
Piyushi.
unmuted.
Okay, I'm
Oh,
unmuted.
okay.
Sorry about that. Sorry about
Go
that.
ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. I was saying thank you to the Gandhi Development Trust, and thank you, Bishop, for facilitating this and for this invitation on a day of both remembrance and learning. As we all know, today marks a time when our country is at a point of plunging into xenophobia due to the failures of our present politics and the lack of delivery of essential public goods. Today also marks the 74th anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi, who was assassinated for his lifelong struggle for justice and peace by a fanatic from his own faith. One who claimed that, and I quote, Gandhi had betrayed his Hindu religion and culture by supporting Muslims at the expense of Hindus. This act was executed at the very place where Gandhi conducted multi-faith prayers every evening. You know, we find that in every major faith, there's a clarion call for societal justice to attain peace. And it has taken visionary leaders like Gandhi and Archbishop Desmond Tutu to harness this. We stand at this juncture of the need for principled and inclusive leadership once again. Both were spiritual leaders who fought for the liberation of their countries from oppressive rule, and there's some commonalities amongst them which are worth sharing today again. So Gandhi's role in India, well, he stood for the common cause, as we know, of all India's peoples in the struggle for freedom against British colonialism through the lived maxim of unity for purpose for all faiths in a context of divide and rule. His life's purpose was to unite the Indian population by preaching respect and tolerance between all religions. In South Africa, Archbishop Tutu led the struggle for the freedom of South Africa, from the pulpit of the Anglican Church, from the streets, from the stadiums, from international platforms and funeral gatherings with equal fervor and conviction. His acute sensitivity towards diversity, like Gandhi's, to the other is renowned. Gandhi's driving policy was satyagraha, non-violent resistance to fight British oppression, and Tutu's was Ubuntu, as has been mentioned by our previous speaker, embracing diversity despite Christian nationalism, which legislated the separate development of people along hierarchical racial lines. Both mobilized and led nationwide mass protests for their respective liberation causes in wholly inclusive ways. I'm going to touch upon the shared beliefs of Gandhi and Tutu in their quest for justice and peace very briefly. Born in different countries and contexts in the global south, it's interesting that Gandhi and Tutu as spiritual leaders shared some common philosophies and tenets that they held firm as guiding principles in their leadership. These were an undying commitment to confront truths. They also capaciously embraced the power of love, diversity, plurality of religions, and dialogue. It is fascinating to delve, it has been and it is fascinating to delve into the wealth of their rich, extensive writing on these subjects, but that's a matter for another occasion. I think it's worth focusing on the fact that we find ourselves both in South Africa and in the world where the alarm bells are ringing again. The rise of present-day global fundamentalist politics is once again impacting upon religious sensitivities and allegiances. The South African state, as those in many other countries, is facing the challenges of poverty, the lack of a pro-poor political agenda, and basic human dignities, as well as needs to align in both conscience and service to its peoples to forge a new compact. We had a powerful one in the pre-apartheid days, which I think we need to resurrect very urgently. So what have we learned from that period? I think our experience has been that South Africa has a very proud history of the organizing of interfaith collective mobilization in the fight against the horrors of apartheid. It's been salutary in preparing this today to recall the key moments that took place with the establishment of the South African chapter of the World Conference on Religion and Peace in 1984. You'll remember these were the times when everything was burning in South Africa. This was convened by none other than Trevor Huddleston and was attended by Buddhists, Christians, Hindus, Jews, and Sikhs. For the South African chapter, the stated goal was the resistance to a Christian nationalist racist state, establishing forums and dialogues to commit multi-faith groups and individuals to accelerate justice and peace in South Africa. This also gave rise to the call for the first annual Desmond Tutu Peace Lecture after Tutu was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1984, to remind, I quote, all people of faith to put into practice those sanctions and traditions of justice and peace which are inherent in their respective religions. Every religion had the key for justice and peace, is really what he's underlining it there. Tutu was due to deliver the first lecture himself. And you will recall bannings were the order of the day then, but it was promptly banned by the South African state on the grounds of safety, protection of the public and property, alongside the refusal to allow 6 of the 9 international religious leaders of the World Council on Religion and Peace who were due to attend the lecture. In 1987, a delegation thus went to Lusaka for a joint consultation with the exiled ANC, and it was titled Religious Communities in Post-Apartheid South Africa. This was promptly followed by a significant and milestone conference, which took much in preparation in response to a call to develop a religious charter which would encapsulate the rights expected by religious people in 1990, and to discuss the future of religion/state relations in a post-apartheid South Africa. Subsequently, 25 representatives from different religious groupings gathered in June 1992 to produce the first draft, which was circulated widely in synagogues, temples, mosques, universities, colleges, and in various World Conference on Religion and Peace seminars, culminating in a national interfaith conference in Pretoria. After many intensive days of debates, a declaration on religious rights and responsibilities was adopted. The achievements of this remarkable proactive process of multi-faith solidarity not only encompassed opposition across the racial divides, but galvanized deep cooperation on a multi-faith basis by the issuing of moral condemnations, as well as addressing the co-option of people on oppressive agendas. Thus, I think one can rejoice that we never had intercommunal religious warfare in South Africa. Not many countries can say that regarding religious prejudice. And that was because apartheid united us. It brought us together with people who we may not otherwise have encountered. People of vision built this very consciously to create a platform for the common respect for one another's spirituality and spiritual practices. This degree of mutual respect between the faiths historically must be the measure of religious peace today. I share this brief historical snapshot to demonstrate the powerful impact of that movement, but also to remind ourselves the interfaith foundations which undergirded our democratic gains, ones which meant this country never had that religious warfare, unlike other parts of the world. So whilst it may be too bold to hold this up as a model, the rich weave of this process still resonates in South Africa. However, more often though, in symbolic rather than in substantive ways. The same commitment by way of urgent and consistent interfaith stances on xenophobia, political machinations, and other of our contemporary ills need to carry the same force and demonstrable leadership with targeted demands upon the state today. So what can we promote today as we go forward? I think it would be onerous on us to commit to prevent humanitarian injustices globally and in South Africa, as we have seen repeatedly the limits of political diplomacy. Both Gandhi and Tutu led by example against injustice, bigotry, conflict. So let us honor them today by making a united and renewed call for, and I'm going to suggest three premises. The first one is advancing and building on the plurality and the equality of religions and the pursuit of truth. Secondly, encouraging visionary, collaborative, responsive multi-faith forums, which become structures for collective stances on bigotry, mutual respect, and tolerance. And lastly, that we activate religious traditions to advance justice for the needy and thus peaceful societies. So that's what I'd like to share today in terms of just the reflections learned from the historical process that South African religious leaders went through in the opposition to apartheid, but also to revive that tradition, which is not really, we don't see it. We don't see it on an ongoing basis. So rather than wait for flashpoints to occur, a proactive approach is really what I'm suggesting today. Thanks very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your input. We now move on to the next item, and that item is, we are now on item number 5 of the agenda. But I must point out that there have been a few notable points from the previous speaker's speech. She, of course, reminded us about why we are commemorating this day in the fashion in which we are, because of the sacrifice, the ultimate sacrifice that Gandhi made, and how that came about, the differences that arose because of Gandhi's standpoint in religious matters, then the sacrifices that then rose, which then resulted in certain individuals deciding to take his point. She has reminded us of what Gandhi stood for, and of course has counterposed also to his beliefs against those of Gandhi, and she has pointed out a number of similarities between the two. And then she also reminded that every religion has the key to peace. And of course, in conclusion, she then directed our minds to a number of lessons that we should pay attention to. Thank you very much for your input. On that note, we move on to item number 5 of our agenda, and that is the address by Dr. Kezavino Aram, who serves as a co-moderator and executive committee member of Religions for Peace. The doctor will be speaking on how the pandemic has indicated the need for interfaith solidarity internationally. Over to you, Doctor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. I think it's a wonderful moment for us to seek this sharing, this moment of fellowship and community I'm reminded 5 years ago when Ila Didi was with us at Shanti Ashram in India, and she had amongst her many appointments here in the city of Coimbatore, a city of 1.8 million people in southern India. She had an intergenerational dialogue where she met young people. And I want to remember Mahatma Gandhi today in the midst of a pandemic, when the need for generations to listen to one another, but also the need for generations to be in dialogue with one another is so critical. I remember a young child asking Ila Didi when she came to Shanti Ashram, what keeps you going? That is the question that I will begin with. What is it that this world sees as meaningful, as practical, as necessary for us to keep this conversation going on interfaith solidarity? Again, this morning, January 30th, 2022, the third year of the COVID-19 pandemic, I had the honor of listening to Ananya, who is in the 4th grade here in India. And she remembered Bapu in her own way. Last evening, she declared to us at the dinner table that she had indeed written a letter to Bapu. 2022, when a young child in the 4th grade decides it is her right to write to Bapuji. Amongst the many things she wrote, and she wrote it in the present tense, she said, you did not like people to wear clothes that were made in the mills of India. Today, I see a lot of people wearing clothes made in the mills of India. But as an added line, Ananya said, I wear khadi sometimes. I have a few things made in khadi, just like you. And I am waiting to hear some answers to all the questions that I have written in my letter. I want to bring this joy that young people have in believing that Gandhiji is a timeless gift to generations that had lived during his times, but generations that will follow. I say this because then I see hope. I say this because the thought, the life, the work, and the inspiration of Mahatma Gandhi lives on. I see more hope when young people rediscover him and see the relevance of pluralism in the 21st century India, even when the big picture sometimes is frustrating. Brothers and sisters, we have logged in from around the world to be together to honor the Mahatma, the person to whom home did not mean a country, a place, a part of the world, a person who truly meant what he said, that the world indeed is in one family. And he used the beautiful words out of the Indian scriptures and kept reminding us, Vasudeva Kutumbakam, the global family that we are part of and have been part of for the past centuries. The COVID-19 pandemic, of course, has been very equal in the way that it has affected continents, every single continent, 200 countries, over 330 million people and counting who have tested positive to the COVID-19 virus, some who have lost their lives. 38 million of them are here in India. We count them in the data, but we also count this suffering that our brothers and sisters are meeting in the midst of this pandemic. This pandemic has highlighted to the world how central health is. And health was a topic that Gandhiji often spoke about, not only in the way that was done during the times he lived, but in a way he presented even prophetically what WHO came to describe as a state of physical, mental, social, and spiritual well-being. He said the wellness of the mind, the wellness of the body, and the wellness of physical functioning. Brothers and sisters, we know while we are recognizing the importance of health across the world through very painful times, we also know that the virus is non-discriminatory, but its impact is not. The poor, the vulnerable, the marginalized have carried significantly additional burdens. The World Bank tells us the world will see over 150 million people dropping into poverty. And if those statistics have human faces, there will be significant numbers of children and women who will make part of this. This crisis is multidimensional. beyond just a public health crisis. Hunger and food security, economic downfall, the digital divide, a learning crisis that is enveloping almost 1.5 billion children around the world. Never in our adult lives have we seen schools closed for 550 days. All of us know these statistics and the dimensions of the pandemic. But in the middle of this, we remember Mahatma Gandhi because he spoke to us of faith in a very fundamental way. And I want to quote him this afternoon. He said, faith does not admit of telling alone. It is in this deep articulation of faith that I find the rationale for interfaith solidarity. I bring to you warm greetings from the many, many members and many, many national chapters of the Religions for Peace family from around the world. What he said, faith does not admit of telling alone. What does this mean? Is it to just do practical things? Is it just to respond to the problems that we see around us? Is that what he referred to when he said faith does not admit of telling alone? No. He was challenging us, as the Venerable said, to find harmony between what we see as internal progress and external need. And in doing so, in finding this link between the individual pursuit of progress, we also see that the well-being of the other is counted as something that we need. At Religions for Peace, we say, different faiths, common action. It could be that we can say in the middle of the pandemic, different faiths, collective action, common aspirations. Brothers and sisters, when we remember Mahatma Gandhi, we also remember something very important, the power of his personal example. In the midst of the pandemic, we have to remember that individuals will have to continue to do what they have to do. These examples are not for others to emulate, for us to be proud of when we look into the mirrors and examine our own conscience. But Gandhiji also said, Sorry,
could you please mute? You are disturbing the speaker. Whoever is speaking, could you? There's, I think you see that, Yadav. Could you please mute?
Thank you very much. I think what Gandhiji also said is that we look at the collective well-being, and he gave unto us something very beautiful, the idea of Sarva Udaya, the progress of all. And may I say, in the middle of the pandemic, we can revisit. It is not an aspiration, a dream of peaceful times and good times. It is a dream that encompasses also when we are in challenging times. So in the middle of the pandemic, may I present to you this wonderful word that Mahatma Gandhi coined and presented to us, Sarva Udaya, the progress of everyone. And that will require a few bridge building. And we at Religions for Peace have done that in a way that I think will bring justice and example to the theme of this evening. We have done this by thinking together. Because in thinking together, we draw on the gifts that the global family has given to itself, from science, from governance, from new instruments that are there and that can allow us to work together. Also, I think what Gandhiji meant in aspiring for this vision of Sarvodaya was to be able to listen to one another in uncertainties like the one that we are in, where we don't have answers. We could listen to each other with humility and with openness. I have said my respect for frontline workers has never been so high as it is now. We've always known they make the difference. They give the last mile connectivity. But this pandemic has shown there has to be not only a call for justice, there has to be a call for mutual respect. And the third thing, I think, when Gandhiji spoke of Sarvodaya, was that he wanted us to look forward, not backward, not with frustration, but to look forward, because he knew in the agency of the human spirit, which he beautifully called the indomitable human spirit, he saw always the power of possibilities. And so in the concluding part of my piece, I make a call. I make a call that we as people of faith individually and as people of faith collectively draw on the gifts of our societies diversity being one, the possibility of working together, men and women, generations together, the leaders and the frontline workers, science and spirituality. We will give ourselves the gifts and the needed resources to respond to the uncertainties that the COVID pandemic has been giving us. We all know it is not just the last mile connectivity, the institutions that religious communities have, the hospitals and educational institutions that are the assets that can be put to good use in times of crisis like this during the lockdowns. We also know that our moral voice, our ethical compass.
I'm afraid you're running out of time. In fact, you have run out of time.
I will conclude in a minute, sir. I think what we also know in the middle of this is that this moral compass is a gift that the religions give to its people. And Mahatma Gandhi used that well to tell people that the moral voice, the indomitable spirit, when it is channelized as Sarvodaya, when it is channelized for common action, it gives us the possibility of doing what he said, creating a society where unity flowers because mutual respect exists. Faith does not admit of telling alone will be the message that I will leave you with from Mahatma Gandhi. And this is something I feel generations together can celebrate and co-discover in the middle of a COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Dr. Casavino. Thank you very much for the passionate speech that you have given us and the very important points that you have raised. And thank you very much for telling us that young people still believe that Gandhi is the timeless gift to humankind, and the belief by Gandhi that the world is one family, and indeed it is. And that you've reminded us of the effects of the pandemic on the entire globe. And you've also pointed out a very important point, that whilst the virus may be non-discriminatory, but its impact is very much discriminatory, because the poor are bearing the brunt more than anybody else of the pandemic. And I think thank you for reminding us that we need then to pay much attention to that. And thank you very much for also pointing out the power of Gandhi's personal example. I think we need leaders like that who lead by example, who not only pontificate from high platforms, but who get down and get their hands dirty like all of us. And thank you very much for reminding us the lessons of Sarvodaya as espoused by the Mahatma Gandhi. On that note then, and thanking you, Doctor, on that note then, could we then move on to the next speaker? And our next speaker is Dr. Kuria, who is the General Secretary of the African Council of Religious Leaders. He will give the ACRL perspective of the need to inculcate active nonviolence into social movements, shaping Africa to reduce the toll on African people to violent conflicts and the cycles of revenge and retribution that mark our disagreements. Over to you, Dr. Kuria.
Comrade Shlanshla, we couldn't find Dr. Kuria on this list. So I'm not sure. I don't think he has logged on.
Okay.
I'm not sure what's happened, but he hasn't. So if we could ask the others, Mr. Muhammad Isuf, who's going to say an Islamic prayer, and the Phoenix Choir that is ready. Then we'll have questions and answers, and final hymn will be sung by Marie.
Okay. No, we'll continue as advised by Comrade Ila. I then hand over to Isa. Is Comrade is muted or unmuted? I saw the name reflecting on the screen.
Okay.
Yeah, there you are. There you are. Over to you,
أعوذ
sir.
بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله ملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وجل فرجهم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم الصراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وجل فرجهم. Thank you very much for the opportunity to recite this on this auspicious day that we commemorate Mahatma Gandhi.
Thank you very much, Mohammed, for that. We are truly blessed by your prayer. I think on that note, we then move on to the time of questions. I get an indication here that no questions have been asked. Seems everything has been clear. But we would like to highlight that participants who have introduced themselves come from a number of areas such as Penang, Malaysia, Bethlehem, Palestine, Nigeria, Zimbabwe, many parts of India, Colombia, and South Africa. They're doing creative work from planting trees to establishing streets of harmony, and so many and so many other wonderful ways to celebrate our common humanity. We'd like to thank ILA for bringing this diverse group together across the globe and religious age. So on that note, then I would think we would then have the hymn by the choir.
Lead me
talisman which I have loved long since and lost a while.
Oh, thank you very much to the choir for that piece of music. It's quite a thought in invoking peace hymn, which has really been there from time immemorial. So thank you very much for that. We now come to the end of the program. And I would like to hand over to Comrade Ila just to do concluding remarks, after which we will then end the program. Over to you, Comrade Ila.
Thank you so much, Comrade Hlantla. And thank you to all the speakers for the wonderful inputs that each one of you gave us today. A lot of things that we need to think about for the future. Thank you too for all the people who joined us today. And I'm not going to name each one of you, but we have people from Palestine. We have, you know, people, my cousins from India, my nephew. Welcome, Shri Krishna. We have other people from South Africa and from all over the world. So thank you to all of them. I would just like to say that to honor Gandhiji, one of his favorite hymns was Abide With Me. And we have with us today Marie McCree, who is a beautiful singer. And before I say goodbye to everyone, I would like her to just finish off with that hymn, and then we can all depart. So thank you indeed, all of you, and to Comrade Hlantla for facilitating this whole session. Comrade, really appreciated. And to all of you who are in the audience. Over to you, Marie. Please sing the last hymn.
Thank you, Auntie Ila. It is an honor and a privilege to be here with you today, and I hope I do justice to this hymn. May the Holy Spirit guide me. Thank you. Abide with me, fast falls the eventide. The darkened deepens, Lord, with me abide. When other helpers fail and comforts flee, help of the helpless soul, abide with me. Swift to its close, ebbs out life's little day. Earth's joys grew dim, its glories pass away. Change and decay in all around I see. O thou who changest not, abide with me. thy presence every passing hour. What but thy grace can foil the tempest's power? Who like thyself my guide and stay can be? Through cloud and sunshine, Lord, abide with me. Hold thou now word before my closing eyes, shine through the gloom and point me to the skies. Heaven's morning breaks, and earth's faint shadows flee. In life, in death, O Lord, abide in me.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Comrade Lanchla.
Yes, Comrade Ila, I think.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. We've come to the end of the program. Thank you very much for
Thank you, Ila Didi.
Being a wonderful audience.
Yeah. Thank you, Didi. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Ila
Bilal.
Didi. Thank for the opportunity to attend such a program. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for
Thank
coming
you, Ila
on.
Didi, and all the speakers.
Thank you, Bharan from India. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Would love to attend such program in future as well. I've given my email ID. Just send me the link.
Thank you so much.
When you
Thank
organize.
you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much.
Ella, bye-bye. Ella, thank you from Paris.
Thank you so much for letting me join. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Ilaji, for the wonderful invitation.
Thank you, Ilaji. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on, all of you.
Thank you for joining. Thank you, Ella. Best
Thank you,
regards
Ella
from
Madam,
Paris.
for this wonderful session and having us with you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for inviting me.
Nice to see all of you. Thanks to the speakers and for all the people who logged on. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Ilaji. Namaskar.
Namaskar.